The history of the end of humanity in 15 minutes. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and we, humans, barely 300,000. In that time, we have destroyed ancient forests, redrawn continents, and sent messages into space hoping for an answer. But now, it seems everything is reaching its limit. How did it all begin? And how could it all end? Welcome to the history of the end of humanity in 15 minutes. It all begins in a garden, not in a cave, nor in a laboratory, nor under the sea, but in a paradise called Eden. There, mankind had everything, except control over its desires. Adam and Eve, disobedience, the fall, the expulsion. From there begins a long history of chaos, progress, mistakes, and inventions. Cain kills Abel, violence multiplies, and with it, the need to reset everything. God sends a flood. Noah builds the ark. The world starts over, but not for long, because soon humanity once again lifts its pride. They build a tower, the Tower of Babel, an attempt to reach heaven with their own hands. And there, languages are confused, cultures divide, civilizations spread. Abraham is born, then Isaac, then Jacob, and with them a promise of redemption, walking side by side with wars, exiles, and betrayals. Nations rise, empires form, Egypt enslaves, Moses delivers, the sea parts, the people cross, but the human heart remains the same. Centuries pass, kingdoms fall, Babylon destroys Jerusalem, then comes Persia, Greece, Rome, and in the midst of all this, wars become more sophisticated, power more violent, politics more corrupt. Humanity discovers paper, gunpowder, the compass, discovers trade, profit, the market, and later, with the Industrial Revolution, learns to accelerate, to build, to dominate. Trains arrive, factories explode, and the world enters automatic mode. For many, it was the beginning of progress. For others, the beginning of the end. Because every technological advance also took us further away from something, from silence, from awareness, from balance. And that, unfortunately, would lead us straight into war. Humanity had learned to sow, to hunt, to write, to build empires. But nothing had prepared us for what was coming next. The first great shake of the modern world came with the Industrial Revolution. Machines replaced hands, factories replaced fields, the clock replaced the sun. And with that, the world accelerated. Cities exploded in population, smoke filled the skies, and a new logic was born: produce more, faster, cheaper. But that progress came at a cost: the exploitation of workers, poverty in the factories, child labor, and the growing inequality between those who rule and those who obey. On top of that came new ideologies: capitalism, socialism, communism, liberalism, each one promising a better world, but all willing to fight to impose their own truth. New powers emerged, and with them, new wars. The 20th century began with World War I, a conflict no one expected to be so brutal, and that turned the world upside down. Millions dead, borders redrawn, and a new kind of war: industrial, impersonal, massive. But if the first war seemed like the worst, the second came. With Hitler, with concentration camps, with atomic bombs, and with it, humanity proved it could annihilate a city with the press of a single button. The world ended in rubble, but the UN was born. The concept of human rights was born.
and the Cold War was born. The United States on one side, the Soviet Union on the other, and the world divided between two models, two fears, two fingers hovering over the nuclear button. Meanwhile, technology advanced. Radio became television, airplanes became jets, and humans walked on the moon. But with each conquest, the tension grew. What seemed like the peak of civilization was, in truth, a silent countdown. Because the faster we run, the less we look at where we're going. And while satellites spun in orbit, the human heart remained lost, without peace, without balance, without purpose. And while some nations dreamed of colonizing Mars, others struggled just to survive on Earth. And all of this brings us to the next chapter, the digital age, the invisible imbalance, and the threat you can't see, but already rules.
The 20th century ended like an explosion. Humanity connected, globalized, accelerated. Science advanced. Medicine saved lives. Technology amazed. And then, the internet arrived. What began as a communication channel quickly became a new reality. One where everything is just a click away. One where no one is alone, but almost no one is truly accompanied. Social media emerged as windows, but they became mirrors. Millions of people showing their lives without really knowing who they are. Information became infinite, but understanding increasingly scarce. Opinion became a weapon, attention a currency, and truth an algorithm. At the same time, new revolutions arose: artificial intelligence, genetic editing, automation, mass surveillance, and with them, new questions. How far will technology go? Who controls the data? What is real and what is manipulated? What will happen when intelligence is no longer human? Meanwhile, the planet was screaming, but no one was listening. Polar ice melting, rising sea levels, ecosystem collapse, global warming, the extinction of entire species, all in just a few decades. Population growth broke records, more than 8 billion people sharing a world that wasn't prepared. Overflowing cities, ultra-processed food, endless workdays, postponed dreams. And on top of all that came a pandemic, a virus that paralyzed the planet, that showed how vulnerable we are, and that it made it clear that no matter how advanced the world may seem, a single invisible particle can stop it all. After that, fear became normalized, anxiety became everyday life, and loneliness, a silent epidemic. We are connected to everything, but disconnected from ourselves. And just when it seemed the world was starting to catch its breath, conflict returned. Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, Iran, Taiwan. A new wave of geopolitical tensions, ancient hatreds disguised as new causes, allies that no longer understand each other, and a world map that once again trembles in silence. All of this leads us to a single question. Are we building the future, or are we writing our own end?
History has always seemed like a cycle. Empires rise, empires fall. Wars, treaties, reconstruction, and then it all happens again. But this time, it's different. It's not just one country against another. It's not just one ideology against another. It's the world against itself. The planet is not dying. It's being killed. And the killer bears our name. We consume more than the planet can give. We produce waste faster than we can bury it. We change the climate, the seas, the seasons. And we did it in the name of progress. Meanwhile, the global economy hangs by a thread. Markets inflate, debts pile up, resources run dry. Everything is interconnected, but that same connection makes every mistake global. An energy crisis on one continent, and the whole planet trembles. A military explosion in the Middle East, and prices rise on the other side of the world. And if we speak of tension, we cannot ignore the names that fill today's headlines: Israel, Iran, Russia, the United States, China, North Korea. One miscalculation, one missile in the wrong direction, one unchecked provocation, and the entire world could change in minutes. Artificial intelligence has no ethics. Automation leaves millions without jobs. Biotechnology rewrites the code of life. And no one seems to stop and ask, should we? Values change every day. What was truth yesterday is offense today. What was family is now a structure under debate. What was identity is now a choice. And what was sacred is now discarded. Everything is fluid. Everything is relative. Everything is negotiable. Art is degraded. Politics are corrupted. Religions are polarized. Childhood is confused. Youth is numbed. Adults are worn out. And the elderly are no longer heard. We live in an era where everything is allowed, but nothing satisfies. A generation with access to everything, but with empty souls. And as we look toward the future, a shadow grows behind us, a sense that something is coming, that something big is about to happen. We don't know if it will be a war, a collision, a collapse, or an awakening, but we know it won't be long.
Humanity has walked thousands of years since Eden. It has passed through wars, empires, discoveries, and mistakes. It built cities, crossed oceans, conquered the moon, but it has yet to conquer its own heart. Today, we have the technology to live better than ever before, but also the power to destroy it all in seconds. We know how to create peace, but we choose to create weapons. We know how to feed the world, but we still allow millions to die of hunger. We know how to care for the planet, but we act as if we have no other. We are at a unique point in history, a point where everything can change or end. And the most dangerous thing is not a nuclear bomb, nor an economic collapse, nor an AI that replaces us. The most dangerous thing is a humanity that has stopped listening. It has stopped listening to one another, to conscience, to warnings, to history. And when a civilization stops listening, silence becomes its sentence. Some believe the future will be bright, others that there will be no future. But perhaps the true destiny of humanity is not defined by what we invent, but by what we allow. Because in the end, history doesn't end with an explosion. It ends with decisions, small, every day, yet decisive. Today we are writing the last line of a chapter, and tomorrow the page may no longer be blank. Time does not stop. The clock keeps ticking, and the future no longer waits.
If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you knows this is not just a video. It's a warning. So leave your comment. What do you think will come next? And if this message made you think, share it. Because the end may already be written, but you still have time to understand it.